Good afternoon and welcome to today's webinar. My name's Charles Green. I'm part of the marketing team here at Belatrix Software, and I'm going to be your host today. Thank you firstly all very much for taking the time out of your busy schedules to join this call. And today we're going to be discussing software architecture and how organizations really need to decide on the right software architecture for your business and your technology strategy. Now, we decided to focus on this topic because it was clear that software architecture is incredibly important, but at the same time often misunderstood. And as business stakeholders get more and more involved in technology decision-making, too often the underlying architecture is ignored or is paid less attention, often because of the sense of complexity and also the distance from the final software product. So today I'm delighted to be joined by Uzi Mamani, who's one of Belatrix's experts, to talk about software architecture and how you can make the right choices when looking at software architecture. Uzi, would you like to say a few words of introduction about your background?
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, well, my name is Uzi Mamani. I work here in Belatrix about 3 years. And I especially work in software development. I was involved in 4 projects that it's for 3 of our huge clients that we have here, changing the way that they are making business using technology for that. I'm considering myself just a developer, a software developer. So I'm here to answer all your questions if you have.
Excellent, thank you. And now before we go any further, I should mention that today's session is very open. So while we're going to be presenting for much of the next 35 to 40 minutes, please feel free to ask us questions. And you can either do that by the chat box on the right-hand side of your screen, or via Twitter, and you can use the hashtag ArchitectureBSS because we're going to be live tweeting throughout using that hashtag. So you can also follow us along on Twitter, but also do use it to ask your questions as well. For those of you who are not familiar with Belatrix, we're a leading provider of software development services with expertise in product and mobile application development, and our focus is really on innovation and shaping the concepts and ideas of our customers into world-class software products. And of course, as part of that, we need to be considering the software architecture to enable the software products to really appeal to customers. Now, turning to the first slide of the presentation, really aiming to set the theme for the rest of the presentation, is that software architecture connects what we build with our business strategy. And particularly with the ever faster pace of both business and technological change, we need to ensure that architecture is robust, it's flexible, it's portable to different platforms, and it's able to interact with third-party products as well in order to meet today's business goals, which are being set by the business stakeholders. So it's really about bringing together those two elements, bringing together the technology side together with the business strategy. But building the right architecture is all about choice. And you need to be able to consider what the system is going to do when it's operational, what the expected level is of the performance, what the environmental context that your software product is going to be operating in. And to do that, you need to be making choices. And you can see that on the next slide when we look here at the range of choices that you have available with software architecture. It's about choosing the particular language, choosing the particular framework. It's about design patterns. It's about standards. Also about looking at whether it's a cloud solution, whether it's hardware, in order to ensure that your software product performs as you want it to. So to help you make the right choices with software architecture, we've put together the following agenda. It's a pretty straightforward agenda for today. Firstly, we're going to start off by giving you an outline of exactly what is software architecture. Uzi is going to talk you through some of the concepts that underlie software architecture. And then we're going to have a look at 3 in particular. We're going to look at ServiceOriented Architecture, we're going to look at CTRs, and we're going to look at event-driven architecture. And finally, we're going to end up with some time for Q&A. But as I mentioned, do feel free to ask your questions at any point during the presentation, and we'll do our best to take them. So with that, I want to hand over to Uzi to start off with an overview exactly of the underlying principles of software architecture.
Okay, if we go to the next slide. Okay, well, when I start this development software, and it comes with the Agile methodologies 10 years ago, one fellow of mine said me, "Hey, okay, we are doing extreme programming, so we don't need any design. We will write code right away." So that was a bad decision at that time. So Dave Thomas says the same thing. Big design up front is done, and doing any kind of design is even dumber. So because we need at least one draft of what we need to build or what we need to accomplish. And if we go to the next slide. So another quote that I get from one of the people that I follow is Gregory Young, is there is only one architecture and there's one of the system you are talking about. Well, that is our job if we work as architects. So every single project, if needs a complete customized recipe in order to build the software that the client needs. So there exist patterns, there exist styles that we were talking about, but we need to mix them in order to fit or find or design the solution for our clients. So 20 years ago, Mary Shaw and David Garland write this book, and they at that time talk about what was software architecture. They identified that it's in that time was a new discipline because the software becomes more complex, the problems be more, the business grow, so many technologies emerged in that time. It was the big impact of the internet and the business. So there take some insights in order to propose what that new discipline was emerging for development software. That there is a guideline that we could consider or follow in order to create or design a solution for our clients. So they are defining here in their books that they call architectural style. So they are defined that a style or architecture it's defined by two things, which is components and connectors. The components are the things that supposed to do the things that we need to implement, and the connectors provides the connection between these components. So with these two words or two concepts, we can have a vocabulary that we can talk or discuss about what architecture we are talking about. These define in terms of components and connectors, and for example, we can know or we can select which architecture is suitable for which kind of problems in terms of the components of the hub. For example, we can define what kind of constraints, variants, or properties these components have or these connectors have. What are the the structural patterns, what are the computational models that they need to implement in order to make this all these works together. So with these two concepts, we can define, we can describe all the architectural styles that we have right now. So nowadays there is too much information about software architecture. We passed from layer architecture in the 90s, and then come with the internet and the SOA explosion. We have this SOA architecture with SOAP. We have envelopes of SOAP everywhere, and there is a lot of frameworks and an application that implements that architecture. So in this way, we can identify that service-oriented architecture and in event-driven architecture, there are architectural styles. But these styles can use or can be constructed or maybe defined for the patterns or architectural patterns that they have. For example, we can use hexagonal pattern, which was defined by Alistair Cockburn. The linear pattern in the 90s, the CTRs pattern that Udita Han and Greg Young talked about 10 years ago, I think. And now we have the event sourcing pattern in order to build our application. In this today, I will talk about what is service-oriented architecture. This is a really wide concept. As you know, this architecture style defined or are the components of the systems are they are called services. These services are isolated. These services have bounded context. There are constraints that are defined the interactions between these components. There is contracts and interfaces that should be followed. So, and all the interaction between the components are controlled by policies. Policies for like authorization, like how we're gonna call these services. So that is how the SOA architecture style is defined. So for the other hand, we have the event-driven architecture, which is another approach, another modern approach about the how we can build a solution. So in this case, the event-driven architecture is based in events. Everything in this architecture are events. So for example, if we go to the next slide. For example, in this SOA architecture, there are interaction between the components, which is our services. And these interactions in an event-driven architecture are messages. So all the components communicates through messaging. So the connectors are messengers, and we have publishers and subscribers of these events. So what we have with this kind of style, which we could have highly scalable applications. It's a no blocking pattern that we can implement. It's adaptable, and it can use for small, and large, and complex applications. And in the event-driven architecture, we have two kind of implementations. For example, we can use a mediator topology, which is a central component of this architecture, and all the events goes to this mediator, and this mediator distribute this message along the other components. And in this example, the event goes through a queue. The queue is processed by this event mediator, and this event mediator acts like a hub, and this can spread the message to other components, to other systems, to uh, other listeners of these events. So in the other way, we can have another topology for implement the event-driven architecture. Like if we go to the next, for the other hand, we have the event-driven architecture using a broker. Instead, I have a mediator. We have as many events and channels or queues, and plenty of event processors. They are listening the queues, and we only need to publish the event to the bus, and some of the processors will take that event and start the processing. So if you can see, the message can travel along the complete system or for all the components, following the workflow that we need to implement. Yeah. Okay. So when we talk about, for example, in event-driven architecture, we are talking about that the consistency, which is a great problem, is the here in this case is eventually consistent. The system is eventually consistent. So that could be a huge problem if we don't design well our systems. So this is the theoretical part. Okay. The cool pattern that we have right here is the command query responsibility segregation. It's a cool pattern because everybody now is doing it, is putting in practice. But as I started with it 5 years ago. I learned about the CQRS pattern and applied it too many times. But at the beginning, I made some mistakes. I misunderstood with it because it's really difficult to understand how it can help us. But when we understand how it works, we can apply and get all the benefits from it. If you go to the next slide, this pattern is really simple. It says that we will divide our flow of the application in two sides, the command side and the query side, and says that the command side it's only for updating data, and the query side is only for reading data. Okay. As you can see in the image, for the event store and the data storage, well, there is a synchronization mechanisms. So that's the thing that we need to implement, and we have a lot of options to implement this. You can use a queue, we can use an event store like we are getting in the picture, or maybe we only need to fire a trigger and update another database. But the real thing is how we're going to synchronize this, and how the business should understand that, what does mean eventually consistent, and also how we're going to handle that, right? And with this pattern and with the event-driven architecture style, we can get applications that are really highly scalable, maintainable, and overall that works and make that the business evolve with it. Here in Belatrix, we apply in this pattern in the projects that I participate. For example, here in this image, in this client, client has a huge order management system across all the United States. So The problem here is when they have his legacy application, which were Oracle forms, and at, at the beginning of the project, the client said that they need a really on real-time transaction. So, but we should attend too many transactions at the same time. So it was not possible to do that working in the way that we were having at the beginning of the project. So we should separate the components of the systems into sites. The site that execute updates to the data and the site that read the data. So we separate the online transactional processing from the analytics processing. So in this part, the components were the Oracle, the common processors, which is the domain command model, which update the Oracle, and use a queue, which was Sonic MQ, and a lot of event handlers that were subscribed to this queue. And these event handlers update Solar repository, which is were used for the query side of the application. In the next slide, we will have the complete picture of it. And using the CTRs pattern and some event-driven architecture style, we will have that, for example, in this case, it is the second version of the system, because in the first version we from the application updates directly to the Oracle database. In this case, we didn't do that. Now we send a message to a queue when the user from one part of the system sends an update. This update is a queue to the Sonic queue. There is an order updater. Sorry, can you go to? Great, thank you. And this message is taken by the order updater handler. This order updater handler update the database and then publish another message that is taken for the order relay. The order relay updates through using signaler technology in order to update all the screens that the user are connected in that way, and publish another message in order to update the analytic database. So in this way, we eliminate the contention of the system, because we are processing in a serialized way, and we can attend too much more requests about the order processing, because there was a huge time of latency with the contention. And for the other way, they have a time frame about 15 seconds in order to get the analytics information updated in real time. But not really real time, but near real time. So now the solution is working and the client is happy with it. The thing is, if we need to only modify or change some of these components, we only will touch that component. We don't mess up with the other components of the application. So that is the other benefit that CQR's pattern gives us, because if we are segregation the responsibility of our components of our systems. And if we use this pattern and we practice, for example, domain-driven development, we will have a really good toolbox in order to build highly scalable applications. But there is a problem. If we go to the next slide, we will see the problem. In my particular case, I was really lucky, because the client understand that they should change the way that he see her business. Because, for example, if we want real-time transactions, we will have a lot of contention. This means we will have many blockings, deadlocks in the database when the storage that we will have, and the only way to fresh out this will have adding memory, adding other cluster for the database, but we are not solving the problem. We are only giving a pill in order to, for another month, we will have the same problem again. So we need to understand what is the problem, and in sometimes maybe the business needs to be flexible in order to understand what change, what adjust should be done in order to create a solution that suits all the needs that they have. This is important because if the things can go wrong, well, it can go worse. And when we have really high contention domains, we have updates, transactions, notifications. For example, if you buy a book, if you need a real transaction processing, you need the bill, you need to save the send the deliver, update the inventory, and notify to the client that the book was separated and was enveloped and send it. All in this transaction in one time, in only a unique transaction. It's insane. We need to liberate this. Maybe we need to rethink the thing that we are manage our business. Because, for example, if we have what we could get in the next slide, for example, this, for example, if we have, for example, a Best Buy site, or maybe we have a really small store that sell books in a Black Friday, if we have a really high contention domain, we will have these kind of queues of people in here laptops or maybe in here iPads hitting the enter key in order to see that their order was processed. So that's the key thing. For example, in this particular case, if we have 10,000 of clients hitting our site and trying to book or trying to buy something, and we have real-time transactions involved, we will have a lot of contention. So why we should have this kind of behavior? Because we don't change the way that we manage our business. Because if we want to attend the 10,000 clients on a Black Friday, maybe they only want to buy the same book or maybe the same thing, but we don't have the inventory for that. So maybe, as Amazon does, we only need to perform said, hey, okay, your order is processing, but maybe 1 week ago or 1 week later, you will have in your inbox a mail that said, hey, we are out of inventory. We apologize, but you should wait another 15 days in order to have your book, because we don't have any inventory for yourself, for you. So, but they change his business in order to be more flexible and in order to evolve, because they already sell the book. They sell the 10,000 books, because in the other way, the 10,000 users were blocked and no one of them will have the book. So the tricky part is try to make these kind of things understand to the clients. Our clients need to see what they need to accomplish and how us as architect or maybe our solution developers can help them in order to get the more suitable solution for them. And the things that I show you is that with an event-driven architecture and applying the CTRs pattern, we can have a good combination in order to build a good systems and a good solution that the clients will enjoy and will use in order to compete, be more competitive, be more reliable, be more confident, stay in the business 24 and 7 days all the year, and the business continues rolling. So that is the thing that we need to keep in mind when we go out, or maybe when we try to build something to our clients. So another thing that I want to mention is that I learned also is like Grady Bock said, all architecture is a design, but not all design is architecture. So we need to learn to differentiate what is an architecture design and what is not, because it's really difficult not noticing that. And another thing is, when we work in this role, but I am not an architecture, I am a software developer, but sometimes we need to take some architectural decisions. We should take them as late as possible, because if we fail, if we make a mistake, this mistake could cost a lot of money. So when we will make a decision, we will take into consideration how we're going to measure the cost of change. If the cost of change is too high, maybe we need to wait some time in order to take a good decision with the whole things that we need to know in order to take it. And when we start, for example, a project from scratch, is good that we need to start with a design in order to build or start building our solution. But like Simon Brown said, only just enough upfront design in order to understand what we gonna build and create a shared vision for the team, because the team that we will work should know what we need to accomplish, what we need to get, and what we need to deliver to our clients. That's all that I have for now. If you have any questions, I'm here for any question that you have.
Excellent. Thank you, Uzi. And as Uzi mentioned, we do now have some time for some questions. So just a reminder, you can ask the questions either via the chat screen on your screen on the right-hand side of your screen, or you can ask us a question via Twitter using the hashtag architecturebsf. And so we'll just give it a couple minutes to see if any questions come in. That's just whilst we're waiting, Uzi. One question which I personally would have is that when you're working with say a CTO, he comes to you as one of the early stage of an engagement. What do those first kind of few meetings look like? How do you start the process to determining you know, we spoke at the beginning that there are a lot of choices in software architecture, and it's about narrowing down those choices to what works best for your strategy. So how do those first kind of few meetings look like? What are the kind of key points you focus on? What maybe some of the criteria?
Well, when I have in that situations, I try to know what are the business, what are the key points that they have, maybe identify what are the workflows or the key transactions or the key operations that they have. Also asking about the non-functionality requirements, like for example, uh, how reliable or maybe how up should be the application running. It's 24/7 or maybe only in the, I don't know, business hours. Um, if we update something, it should be updated in this way because another process or module or component should get that information right away. So if it is real time or not real time. Another thing is how many requests or user requests we will have, and that kind of questions comes to me when I start a project and start knowing what are the business challenges that I should tackle in the next month.
Okay, excellent, thank you. And I see here that we have a question from the audience, which is that do you see event-driven architectures having a significant impact on ISPs, MNOs, and MVNOs, service architectures?
Well, okay, for example, CTRs is a good thing, and event-driven architecture having a lot of impact right now. And there is a lot of data, event data store. For example, I know that Greg Young is building an event store application. So, what is the impact? What could be the impact with making more competitive? And we need to think and in another ways to implement or build our software. We need to uh, take out or in, you need to step aside and see the big pictures in order to see what kind of benefits you can get from event driven, because event driving is a good thing, but it maybe is not suitable for your business. So we need to identify what kind of benefits you can have. If at the beginning of this talk, we mentioned the two components that define an architectural style, which is our components and connectors. So we need to, we should take this and begin analyze the event driven. What are the components? The message, the publishers, the subscribers. How are they connected with the events? What alternatives do we have to build our system? What are the benefits from this kind of approach? What are the disadvantages? What we can get, and compare these options with another options that we have, for example, a service-oriented architecture or maybe a layered architecture, a compare. Maybe taking, for example, a stressful scenarios and compare how these components can resolve these kind of problems. So that's the things that we need to take in place when we want to choose these kind of approaches in order to build a solution.
Okay, excellent, thank you.
There is another question.
Yep, absolutely. The questions are flying in at the moment. So we have one more question regarding that CQRS is popular for Agile right now. And can you talk a little bit about what are some of the architectural considerations that a company needs to take into account in an agile environment?
Well, it's really difficult because when you use, for example, CQRS, you need to, well, you will separate your concerns. You will have the query side and the command side. So the tricky part is the synchronization between these two storage for the query and the command side. So the considerations that we should have is what kind of mechanisms we will use in order to synchronize this size of the applications. Maybe we don't need that because maybe we will use only database for both of them, or maybe we can use different storage or repository for that. So the mechanism, the synchronization mechanism is the key part from that. And for an agile work environment, well, if you apply CQRS, you will have separation of concerns, and you can take full advantage of for test-driven development, behavior-driven development, domain-driven development, and for example, deliver a component that is in the query side of your architecture. You will deliver that component, so the deliver of this maybe is only deliver the UI and the query model and the new schema for, or changing the schema in the query side. And the other part, you will publish another component that has another moves another things along along your infrastructure, so the deployment could be more easy. But the administration will be more complex too. So you need to compare and decide what are the advantage or disadvantages that you have between them. But you can get all of the benefits that I mentioned too.
Excellent, thank you. We have, I think, one final question, which is regarding some of the newer aspects in the technology industry, which is regarding the combination of different multimedia content and Internet of Things. How do we then apply new architecture modes to this? More specifically, the question is about to the agile mobile workforce. Perhaps we can take it also more generally.
Well, if you it's the same thing. I mean, you have to need to read data and you have to update data. So you have two channels of it. So you can read data for too many devices, iPads, wearables, some IoTs, like for example, I don't know, maybe in your smart TVs, something like that. So you can have the CQRS, and you can have maybe the hexagonal pattern. Maybe you need to use adapters and ports patterns in order to connect these new device, new components to them. So we don't follow only one recipe. We need to maybe mix all the things that we know so far and try to create a recipe that suits to your solution. You don't have to use CQRS or EventDriven style. Maybe you can mix SOAP, maybe you can use EventDrive, maybe you can use CQRS for maybe pipes and filters, or ports and adapters, or maybe all of them, because you have a huge application in front. So you can use all of them, or you can use some of them, but the decision that you will make should be managed by the needs that you need to cover. If you have an application that have a lot of devices, you will have a lot of kind of clients. Maybe you should think in a port and adapter architecture, and you can take out or take a look at the hexagonal pattern architecture that Alistair Cockburn write in his book. So that could be my advice for that.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. I see at the moment we don't have any more questions. So with that, I would like to say firstly thank you to everyone for taking the time out of your days to attend this webinar. A big thank you to Uzi for sharing your expertise. I know at least for me it's been hugely insightful. If you do have additional questions that you would like us to answer, when reflecting over the material that we presented today, then again, do feel free to reach out to us. You can see our emails here on the slide. This is really what we love to do. We love to talk about technology and about some of the new trends in technology. So do feel free to reach out to us if we have perhaps piqued some interest in perhaps some of the areas where you have interest in terms of specific services that Belatrix can offer. Again, do look on our website to find out more about our company. With that, I would like to say thank you again and have a good rest of the day.